Alright, Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And also peace and safety to the argument that spread across the four corners of the world that's pushing out this truth with all diligence and putting their lives on the line to do so. Before I get started, I'm the brother Karatas out here out of Great Millstone, Atlanta. Back at you again with another lesson. Just going into the brief topic of being occupied, in prophecies, and this is very important, while we still, have, some sort of, liberty to do, what you want, so to speak, to an extent, and, as far as, the world, continuing to be, ran by the so-called white man, and he hasn't dropped the hammer down yet. Okay, like the scripture tells us in Revelation, the 12th chapter, that the so-called white man is going to come down on you, knowing that he have but a short time. So it's important for us, to meditate in the prophecies of the scriptures and understand, the times and the seasons that we're in, because this thing is very serious, But I'm going to start off in Sirach chapter 39 and verse 1. It says, "But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies." You see? So we've given our mind over to, the law of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Salakia. But like the scripture tells us in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, that the whole duty of man is to fear the Most High and keep his commandments. So that's our duty while we're here on earth, is to be prophets, to tell of the times that's coming to America and to the world. That's our duty, not to be, club promoters or, husbands, or whatever the case may be. Of course we have certain things on the side, but this comes first. We have to understand that and always continue to put this first. Scripture says that no man can serve, two masters. He'll hate the one and love the other, loosely paraphrasing. Okay? So it's important for us to give our mind over to the law, and be meditate in those things. From here, I'm gonna go to the classic Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 7. It says, "Wisdom is the principal thing." When you go into that word, principle means first. So this is our our job. Even to where we get income from doing this, man. Scripture tells us to store up our treasures in heaven with moth or rust, don't corrupt, man. So it says, matter of fact, I'll start at verse 5. It says, "Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not." You see? So, we, a lot of times, especially me, you can find yourself, forgetting, certain things, but it's important that, we continue to retouch on certain topics, certain breakdowns, because we're not to forget of those things, man. But it says, "Neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee." And that's the importance of being occupied and meditated upon the scriptures. Even when we're not, studying, around Akim, and we're still supposed to be meditating on the scriptures, on, spiritually, judging people and action that's going on in the world, just keeping our mind sharp, You know, that's what that does, man. It keeps us, on point. Not forgetting, everything that's going on around you. But it says, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. You see, and in order to get, wisdom and understanding, you have to go through certain things in the truth, to be able to exercise that wisdom. You have to have ups, you have to have downs. You got to have low moments. You got to have moments where, the spirit is not really on you like that, like it used to be, man. But the thing is, continue in it. Matter of fact, since I said that, grab this scripture. I start at verse 12. 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12. It says, neglect. Salaki, I start at 12. It's, let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. You see, so that's how we be, examples of the believers of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. It's by our faith and our purity and our spirit, in our conversation, especially in our charity. The scripture says charity covers the multitude of sins. So that's how we be examples, to the world. It says, verse 13, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. That's right, man. So until, the Lord comes, we got to give attendance to those things. We have to be present. Like when the teacher called your name in elementary school, you said here or present. When the Lord calls our name, hey, we have to be present. He said, roughly paraphrasing, when I come, who shall he find so doing? So this isn't a, what's the word? A fad or some type of event, they're just here today and gone tomorrow. No, this is forever. Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai is forever, man. And we have to be that, as well. We have to be those examples. Okay? So I just, wanted to touch on that. Lord willing is edifying. I'm going to go ahead and close up by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Till the next time, Shalom.